So let's just come together in consciousness. I invite us to simply turn within to that beautiful place within us that is wholeness, that is spirit, that is love, that is all things the infinite presence is within us. And I know for each one of us that that place of wholeness within us and within Him is that place where love resides, where wholeness resides. It is that place within us that brings us together to be here this morning. And so I speak my word for each one of us that every word that is spoken here this morning are words that lift us up into a greater ideal of who and what we truly are. I know for each one of us that every note of music, every song that is sung, every hug that is shared, every moment of this service delights us and lights our light. I speak my word for all of the volunteers, for our tech team, knowing that every single aspect of this morning is God expressing through all of us. What a blessing it is to know this truth. And so in this awareness, in this knowing, I give thanks. I give thanks for all that is and all that is yet to be. I give thanks for that infinite wholeness that is the very truth of each of us, of everyone, everywhere. And so in this knowing and in this gratitude, I release my words into that divine creative process known as the law. And I know that it is good and very good. And we can say together, and so it is. And now we will join together in contemplation.
I have a quote that was actually going to be my closing quote, but I'm going to start right off with it. This comes from the quantum physicist or the physics guy, Fred Alan Wolf, who said, "The self is fundamentally an illusion arising as a reflection of the soul in matter, much as a clear lake at midnight reflects the moon." And our soul is love. The essence of our soul is love. And that's the essence of who we are. The self, all this stuff we do, the titles we have and all that is just an illusion, because it's the soul and the reality of that capital L love through us that is the only reality there is. So breathe that in for a moment. This whole month we're exploring the idea of wholeness. I just used whole in the same sentence twice. I did that wrong. And our theme is whole no matter what. Our first one was no bad parts, so I guess I can use whole in the same sentence twice, and there's no bad parts, right? So it's good, yeah. We're whole no matter what. We are whole no matter what. And look at your neighbor and say, you're whole no matter what. No matter what you think, no matter what others think of you, you're whole. Not a hole, whole. W-H-O-L. And so today our final talk in this series is a world where all are valued. Now we're all big on creating the world, we'd love to do that. Yeah, let's make a world where all are valued, right? Have you noticed that you don't control the world? I don't control the world. No matter how hard we try, we don't control the world. Byron Katie, who has a wonderful process that she calls the work, says there are three businesses we can be in: God's business, other people's business, our own business. And the only business we have any business being in is our own business. Our own business. God's business is like the running of the cosmos. We can't do that. Our own business. See, I can't make a world that works for all anywhere except within me. I can't make a world where all are valued anywhere except within me. My world. This essence of who I am. And so we sit there and we start to think, well, yeah, but what's that? I'm just one 8.2 or whatever it is billionth of a dot, of human dot of existence on the planet. What is my being a wonderful, kind, loving person and valuing everybody? How many of you value everybody and everything in your life? I'm going to put my hand down real quick. Right. None of us do, yes? So we want the world out there to be a certain way, but we don't want to be that way ourselves. So the invitation is, if we want a world that works for all, if we want a world where all is valued, all are valued, we have to become that first. We get all agitated, we get all, I'm going to go out on a crusade and do this and make it happen and march and whatever. I'm going to vote, I'm going to, all this outer stuff, right? But if we're not whole within ourselves, we don't create that out there. And it's not a case of we go in a cave and sit and navel gaze for the rest of our lives either. But it's like we bump up against the things and we go, ooh, that's where I don't value somebody. Can I see the value in my ex-wife, ex-husband? Can I see the value in the political figures I don't like? Can I see the value in all these circumstances and situations? I can look at my ex-wife, my second ex-wife, and which was kind of the big relationship, and say, I value and I'm grateful for you helping me fulfill the dream of love at the start. And I value and am grateful for you to teach me how to withstand all the hypercriticism and stand on my own and remember who I truly am, that I'm not all that you're telling me that I am and your family is telling me that I am, that I'm not that. So I could grow stronger and be ready for ministry when I stepped into it. I'm grateful and I value all of that. It was all a blessing. You've been my teacher in many ways. Can we look at people, even the people we don't like, and say, thank you for being my teacher, even if it would hurt like heck, right? I guess so. If we're going to create a world where all are valued, we have to be the place within ourselves where all are valued. So take a breath. And it's also easy to give up and feel hopeless because the task seems so big and the idea is so far away, yes? But I think of the idea, the old adage of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I don't eat elephants, but it's a metaphor. The other thing to remember is that I can't change the whole world, but I can change how I am in the world. And that changes the world around me. That changes the world around me. And people who are affected by my change affect and thus change the world around them. And so on, and it ripples out and out and out. The great anthropologist Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. A small group of thoughtful and committed people. Yes? Not just people who wished and hoped. Yeah, I'll be on this bandwagon for a little while. Oh, it's not going anywhere. I'm going to bail. Thoughtful and committed. We as religious scientists have learned more powerful ways to think, to focus through meditation, through visioning, through spiritual mind treatment, through all these ways. And we're a perfect group of thoughtful citizens, aren't we? Yes? If we're using that, by the way. We are that. We have the ability to be that. We have the tools and the knowledge to be that. Dr. Ernest Holmes observes that trained thought is far more powerful than untrained. But he also says the one who gives conscious power to their thought should be more careful about what they think. Because if we get to the point where we know that our thoughts manifest and we start thinking some stuff that it's like, do I really want that to manifest? Do I really want that to manifest? My friend Andy Anderson, musician, has a song that says, I'm always thinking, you're always thinking, but do we really think what we think about? Am I paying attention to my thoughts? You know, in meditation, we just did a meditation beforehand. It's like, in meditation, you learn to observe the breath. Nothing else, just observe it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to change it. Just observe it. Can I bring my mind and observe it? Can I bring my mind and observe the breath of my thoughts? Because I'm breathing thoughts through me as much as I'm breathing air through me, perhaps more so. So are we thinking thoughts that move us toward a world that works for all, towards a world of love? Or do we get caught up in old thoughts of separation and right-wrong duality and judging and comparing and all that stuff? And we all do, yes? Okay. Let's just get real. But the difference is, can we notice it when we're doing it and say, ooh, there I am going down that little pattern again? See, we're taught that. It's part of the conditioning in the world, yes? We're all taught to do that. So it's kind of, we learn that very, 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 very early on. And so our spiritual journey is to wake up from that and say, you know, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or I'm going to do it less. And we may think our thoughts don't matter, but they do. Our thoughts matter. Jesus taught that our thoughts and real intentions are the root of our actions, how we live in the world. Our thoughts are the roots of our action. In Buddhism, there's the concept, Carrie, if you can bring that picture up, of Indra's net. Alan Watts described Indra's net this way. He said, imagine a multidimensional spider's web in the early morning, covered with dewdrops. And every dewdrop contains the reflection of all the other dewdrops. And in each reflected dewdrop, the reflections of all the other dewdrops in that reflection, on and on to infinity. That we are all reflections of each other, and we all reflect each other. And so as we shift our own consciousness, it shows up in the reflection all around. Yes? As we shift our own consciousness, it shows up. And it would show up instantaneously in the drops around us, accepting that the drops around us, just like us, have a bunch of what Emerson calls bloated nothingness to work through, yes? As my ministerial mentor says, our concretized humanness that is tough to get through. If we weren't being carried around by all that stuff, we would just be instantly transforming and experiencing and expressing love, yes? We would just be dancing right now. We would just be really getting that only love is real. Jesus often told people that if they were about to place their offering to God on the altar and suddenly remembered a grievance against another, they should go immediately, walk away from doing the gift to the altar and go reconcile with that person, yes? Because we can't approach our divinity as long as we're holding grudges, as long as we're holding unforgiveness towards others or towards ourselves. Yes? Oftentimes the unforgiveness is toward myself. And it takes us away from our divinity because the infinite mind, the infinite consciousness doesn't hold grudges. It just says, I love you, my beloved, in this moment now. It's the only one I see. It's the only one we're in. That's why I asked you to say to whoever you were talking to at the start, I'm here for the first time, because we're all here, whatever here we're in, for the first time. There's an old saying, you can never dip your foot in the same river twice. Because you can put it in and take it out and put it in real fast, and the river will still have moved. You will have changed, and everything around you will have changed, even if just the tiniest bit. So we are always fresh. We are always new in this. But we bring our conditioning that says, oh yeah, I've seen this whole thing before. It's like, no, you actually haven't. And of course, our conditioning, our thought says, because we say, I've seen this before, we miss the newness, yes? And so it looks the same as before, because that's all we're seeing. But we know that the mind perceives more than what we think it perceives, yes? When you're hypnotized, you can see, and asked to go back to a scene, you can see more than you thought you remembered. Okay? So there's always more. We're always fresh. And so forgiveness is part of what the dance that we do. We have to develop the ability to both give and receive apologies, yes? Sometimes, because you ever been on a dance floor, crowded dance floor, you bump into somebody, you can either turn around and say, why you so-and-so, and start a brawl fight, which may look good in some movies, right? But it's really painful. Or you can say, excuse me, I didn't mean to bump into you. And the other person can say, I accept that apology, or I accept that, and no worries. Or they can start a fight. What do we want to do? So practicing both giving and receiving apologies, which is really saying giving and receiving love. Yes? When we're giving and receiving, it's love. And to remember what the Course in Miracles says, which is that everything is either an expression of love or a cry for help. Everything. Breathe that in, take that in for a moment. Expand that. Everything is either an expression of love or a cry for help. And that shifts how we are with people, or it has the potential to. We recognize that we are all expressions of this oneness. Friday night, several of us were at a concert by a wonderful New Thought musician named Bob Sima, and he was talking about one place that he was that was a 60-acre forest of aspen trees. And he said he wanted to, thought, how many trees are there here? And he said all of a sudden he had the thought, there's only one. And he said they've actually tested the DNA of that particular 60-acre stand of trees. And the DNA of the tree on this far side and the DNA of the tree on this far side over there are the same identical DNA. And he said basically it's all one big root ball under the ground, growing these things we call trees. And we see them as separate, but they're all one. What if that's what we are? What if what we call God is one big root ball in consciousness, in beingness, and we're all just expressions of that? Gosh, what an idea. And then we get all worked up and exercised because, well, this tree is different than my tree. And I don't even like this part of my tree either. Look at this branch that's not quite where it should be. Look at these leaves that aren't quite formed perfectly. Oh, that one's been eaten by a bug. Oh. Right? Can we look past the apparent differences on the surface? Can we enjoy each other's alternate arrangement of branches and leaves and how we are being rather than judging them? Breathe. Can we celebrate them? Can we celebrate ourselves and each other? You can say yes if you would like to. Can we look out past all the ways that we use to separate, to compare, to judge, to fear others, and instead bring love, bring compassion, bring acceptance, bring the awareness that we are all hurt and we all want to be loved, and use love not as a punishment reward system, but as an expression, as a way of building bridges across chasms of loneliness. Can we do that? Would we be willing to be bridge builders instead of wall builders? Breathe for me. Breathe with me. Not breathe for me, breathe with me. Breathe for yourself. So it may not seem like we're changing the world by our individual actions, but we are, because we are all connected, all reflecting jewels in Indra's net. We are all part of the Indra net of the consciousness, of the wholeness. And as we become more willing to see past the labels and the stereotypes and all the stuff that we label people as and judge people as our own in the world, as we become willing to ask, what's another way to view this person? What's another way to view this situation? I've been watching the DVDs about the making of the Lord of the Rings film by Peter Jackson, which it was a huge 3 films that they filmed all at once to make process. And one of the things that several people said was, we'd have what we thought was a finished scene, and then Peter would say, what's another way to do that? And off they would go to try and create another way to do that. And out of that all, it was stressful for them, but they created a masterpiece. They created something special and wonderful, and they all felt proud of it and unique afterwards, even though they had to go through some stuff to get to it. What if we looked at people? What if we looked at our lives? What if we looked at everything and said, what's another way of viewing this? Instead of just, oh, she's my ex, and I hate her. Is there another way to view that? He's this politician, and I hate him. He's evil. He's bad. He's corrupt. Is there another way to view that? All that we're judging out there is God, infinite presence. Is there a way to not only view that, is there a way to view that that's not from our conditioned beliefs, but from love? If only love is real, and it is, how can I view this from love? And that starts to connect us. That starts to build bridges. That starts to open us up to new possibilities, new ways of being with each other and with ourselves. Because as I'm judging anybody out there, I'm also judging. Got the one finger pointed out at you, I've got 3 fingers pointed back at me. So can we find new ways of being with each other and ourselves, and we give the infinite creativity when we do so, we give the infinite creativity room to play, to show up as love, as joy, as peace within us. And we can value it all. We can value it all. The highs, the lows, the whole dance. Yes? So I invite you this week to do 2 spiritual practices. Number 1 is ask, where am I being called to see something differently in my life? Where am I being called to see something differently in my life? It might be a person or a situation. How can I bring a fresher, less conditioned, more loving viewpoint to this and find value here? Because if everything is God, then everything is of value. And the only time we don't see the value is when we're not seeing God. And we're not seeing God when we're not seeing from the God within ourselves. So it's how can I connect to that aspect of me that can look at this person, situation, and say, there's good here, capital G, good here, there's God here. That's the first practice. Second practice then is to pay attention and notice who you value and who you devalue, what you value, what you devalue, and why. What are the stories you tell yourself? Are you willing to play with that this week? A couple of you are. Good. How about the rest of you? Are you willing to play with that this week? Take a breath. I'm going to close with that quote that I was going to close with anyways, because I have it. And I think it's good to remind us, the self, this idea that this bag of flesh and thought and emotion, the self is fundamentally an illusion. Nudge your neighbor and say, you're an illusion. The self is fundamentally an illusion arising as a reflection of the soul in matter. Look at your neighbor and say, you are a soul. You are a soul. Much as a clear lake at midnight reflects the moon. We have an affirmation. Join me. I create bridges wherever I go. One more time. I create bridges wherever I go. And so I do, and so it is. Thank you.